everybody, and welcome back to Ladies of Lavender. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and joining me today. But before we get into anything, make sure to like and subscribe to join the Ladies of Lavender family. Okay, so let's get right into it. So believe it or not, tampons were actually used in the ancient world. They might not have looked like what tampons look like today, but they were still used. The earliest documented use of a tampon was in ancient Egypt. Women would use something similar to papyrus as a tampon. And in the 5th century BCE, Greek women would use lint wrapped around a piece of wood. Can you imagine how much that would hurt and be uncomfortable? And Roman women would use wool. Other materials that were very popular at the time were vegetable fibers, cotton, and paper. So believe it or not, the modern tampon that we use today was actually invented in 1929 by a man named Dr. Earl Haas. He invented a tampon with an applicator and a string, which looks a lot like the one that we would use today. He filed for his first tampon patent on November 19, 1931. He described his tampon as a catamenial device, which refers to like a monthly device. Dr. Earl Haas got his idea for the modern tampon from nurses during the Civil War. Nurses would use the same kind of material that they would pack soldiers' wounds to help with their menstrual bleeding. They described this method as vaginal packing. Dr. Earl Haas sold his catamenial device to Gertrude Tendrich for $32,000, and that catamenial device was soon turned into Tampaks, one of the biggest tampon manufacturers in the world. And in 1936, Tampaks was introduced to the world. In the 70s, the tampon was drastically improved. In 1973, 70% of American women used tampons. In 1978, the Berkeley Women's Health Collective accused tampon manufacturers of withholding information about the substances they used in tampons. In 1979, 55 cases of TSS, or toxic shock syndrome, were reported to the CDC. What can I do? So in 1980, the CDC linked TSS to tampons. This was a huge deal because before that discovery, a lot of people had no idea what TSS was and how people got it. And remember, 70% of American women were using tampons at the time. In 1983, 2,200 cases of TSS were reported to the CDC. And also in 1983, tampons went to space. So I don't know if you know who Sally Ride is, but she was one of the first female astronauts to work for NASA. She was famously asked by NASA if 100 tampons were enough for her 1-week journey in space. In 1985, Courtney Cox, or Monica Geller from Friends, was the first person to say the word period in a Tampax commercial.
Remember, there's a feeling with Tampax. It can actually change the way you feel about your period.
So let's think about this for a second. Tampax was first manufactured in 1936. In 1985, it was the first time that someone had said the word period on a Tampax commercial. It took 49 years for someone to say the word period, which is completely strange and absurd because periods are normal and should be talked about. In 1989, tampon manufacturers were ordered to implement an absorbency scale for their tampons. The scale that they used in 1989 was junior, regular, super, and super plus. The scale that we use today is light, regular, super, super plus, and ultra. And finally, in 2015, a worldwide movement to end tampon tax was started. This movement is still ongoing today. So all the sources that I used to do my research are listed down below. So if you are interested in this topic, please go do some research on your own. It's really important that we educate ourselves on things like this because they aren't really taught in schools and there isn't really a lot of information out there. So spreading the word about it and staying curious is really important. If you have any video ideas or questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below, or you can DM us on Instagram at Ladies of Lavender. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. We're also planning on doing advice videos and stuff like that, so if you need advice or you need to ask questions, please feel free to do that. Alright, that's it for today's video, but please make sure to subscribe and like. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.
Baby.